What's going on? You're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Before I kick this review off, I want to give a special shout out to 999. You were the first individual to request an album review from me. I'm very flattered by that, and I'm stoked that you're digging the content of this channel. You also selected an excellent record for me to talk about, and so I hope you enjoy this next segment. As I hope all of you enjoy it, we are talking about the Pretty Reckless and their newest record, Death by Rock and Roll, which they released on February 12th. This is the fourth studio album from the band. It is their follow-up to 2016's Who You Sellin' For. This album is going to have that signature hard rockin' sound that you've come to expect from this band, plus a little extra. And I would also argue that this is their best record to date because it's a very personal record. There's a level of vulnerability on display on this record that you haven't seen in previous efforts. And it sadly comes as a result of a number of tragedies that the band endured shortly after the release of Who You Sellin' For. But I think that's the great thing about this record is that ultimately it's about finding catharsis in music, whether it's good times or bad times. Music is something that is just so fundamentally human that, you know, transcends all this BS, all this nonsense that divides us. This is a marvelous record for that reason. Celebrating the life of Chris Cornell, who was a major influence on the band, obviously a mentor to these guys. They were on tour together when he passed away, and I know that the magnitude of that was just devastating for this band. About a year later, the passing of Kato Kandwala, longtime producer and collaborator. I'm almost positive that any recorded material that they had prior to Death by Rock and Roll was produced by Kato. And I never had the pleasure of meeting him personally, but I grew up with Shannon Guns. She's a childhood friend, worked for my mom for a number of years, and it was just heartbreaking. I mean, everybody's heart broke because her heart was so broken by the loss of this man. She loved Kato. He was an incredible guy, an incredibly talented producer. You can just look at his body of work in basically like the 12 or 13 years before his passing, and he was the it guy for hard rock bands. If you were a contemporary hard rock band, to work with Kato was pretty much the sign that you'd made it, I feel like. Just a tremendous human being, so kind, and the type of guy that didn't have an impact just in the music world, but on everybody that crossed his path. I don't think I've read a negative word from anybody in the 3 years since his passing. He's someone that everybody loved and adored, and that's what this record is about. It's probably the reason I didn't review it right off the bat, or really at all. I just wanted this. I wanted this album to just be the statement that it is, and because it is a marvelous record. But here we are talking about it, 999, and the opening track, Death by Rock and Roll, just a banger, just a solid hard rockin' track. Great way to open up this record, and it actually opens up with a sound sample of Kato's footsteps in a hallway. It's like the first 3 or 4 seconds of the track. And so, I mean, pulling at your heartstrings right off the bat there. But they did a marvelous job in commemorating his life and his memory and his work. Only Love Can Save Me Now is the second song, talking about Chris Cornell and his influence. That track has a big Soundgarden sound. I love the riff in it. Obviously, it comes from Kim Thayil, and Matt Cameron also makes an appearance on that track on drums. It was pretty cool to hear Taylor Momsen talk about that song and how it just needed that little extra oomph. And so the guys from Soundgarden were happy to come in and record on that track, and you can feel it. I mean, the song definitely has just that little bit of extra character that it needed, and it's just a marvelous song. Third track, And So It Went, features Tom Morello. Same thing going on there. You can feel the influence of the guest appearance on that track. Morello, hard rockin', but funky jam on that song. Really like that song a lot. The song 25, slow opening riff. It's got this kind of like marching drum, this mysterious vibe that swells into this big piano bridge. Becomes a big song at the end. 25, an allusion to a lot of the young artists that passed before Taylor Momsen, paying homage to those individuals. And she talks a lot about her own substance abuse and digging herself out of that hole, and how she easily could have been one of those people. And so thankful that she's still here with all of us, and that that she didn't become just another member of that club. The song My Bones, big galloping drums. It's got that Alice in Chains feel. If you're going to go old school, think like Deep Purple, but it builds into this fast-paced track, and it's just really heavy. I absolutely love the song on that. Got So High is this gentle acoustic ballad. Taylor's voice just sounds so dreamy, almost kind of like Hope Sandoval from Mazzy Star. Really just dig the gentle vibe of that track. Witch's Burn, it's got this great Danzig feel, just another solid hard rocking track. And then I really loved the song Standing at the Wall. It's this acoustic ballad, builds into this big anthemic coda. Nice string arrangement at the end with that too. But I'm loving this record. I love the last song, Harley Darling, obviously another homage to Kato. And musically, it may seem a little out of place on this record, but given the content of this record, given the driving purpose of it, there's no better way to end this record. It starts with his footsteps in the hall and then ends with, from my understanding, he was a man that loved the ride. And, there's, what better way to pay tribute to him than with a song called Harley Darling, because he really was a darling human being. And it's tough. This record is tough because it's sad to see them arguably make their best record without Kato, but he was with them the entire time. He's the source of inspiration for this record. So he may not have been here physically to produce it, but this album is just, his spirit is just running through this thing, and it's marvelous to listen to. And so obviously it's a vinyl please. I really hope that you've enjoyed this record since it's been released. Hope you find this review helpful. If you haven't listened to it, check this album out. I mean, if you want just a good hard rockin' record, this is for you, right up your alley. So thank you for checking out this album review. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, tune into live show on Sunday nights, and we will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.